All right, hello everyone. This is our Chapter 1 review practice test. I'm going to go through each problem just so you can see what our test is going to be like. Basically, how I go through each problem and how I show my work for each problem is how I'm going to grade it. So if I'm showing work, that's what I expect you to do on your test, okay? Number one is an order of operations problem. So number one, it says evaluate, so I'm going to plug in my -2 here for every single x. Be very careful of the negatives on this problem. That's where people make a silly mistake. So every time I see an x, I'm going to plug in -2. Notice on this one right here, my x is negative and I'm putting in a negative. So I'm going to have negative, -2. We'll talk about that in a second. Plus 1 minus, absolute value -2. All over -2 plus 1. Okay. Let's clean up the top a little bit here, simplify some of our negatives, do a couple of our order of operations. So on top here, I'm going to let you guys, because you guys are in Algebra 2, do a couple steps at the same time. On top here, I see that I have -2 squared. We should do that first. So -2 squared, meaning we have -2 times -2. So this right here is really 4, and then I'm going to multiply it to the -2 here. So that's going to turn into, I'm going to write it over here, -8. Okay. Reminder, we had this double negative. A double negative is going to turn into a positive, so we're going to have +2. This 1 foreign, I'm just going to bring that over. I have minus. Now the reason why I don't do the double negative here, the absolute value of -2 is +2. So this is just going to turn into +2 here. But that -2, or that negative, sorry, it's still out in front. That wasn't part of the absolute value, so that's why we have to throw that negative in front. On bottom here, I'll just carry that over. We haven't really done anything to the bottom yet. All right, on top here, let's simplify a little bit. You could grab your calculators, do stuff in your head. It's up to you. I have -8 plus 2, which is going to give me -6. I have -6 plus 1, which is going to give us, I'm sorry, -6 plus 1 is going to give us -5, and then -5 minus 2 is going to give us -7. On the bottom here, I have -2 plus 1, which will give us -1. And then if we look here, I have a negative over negative, and this will just become +7. So on your test tomorrow, you're going to have to do a problem like this. Simplify, watch over your negatives, use your calculator if you need to, and simplify at the end here. All right, our next problem, it looks intense, but really what it has, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking for the two numbers you're going to plug in. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make this problem a little bit easier. Change this 19 to a 16. Let's be nice to ourselves right now. All right, so it says standard deviation of a sample is calculated with this formula here. So standard deviation represents that S. Okay. This weird funky 0 thing, that represents our population standard, and N is our sample size. So basically what we're looking for, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have to plug in. So it says, what is a standard sample standard size? So we know we're finding S, so I'm going to say S equals. It says our population, now population, remember, was this weird circle thingy, is 10. So that weird circle thingy, I'm going to put that as a 10. And our sample size, or N, is 16. So I'm going to put that into my equation for N. So even though this looks confusing, all what you're doing is reading it and plugging in the numbers that you know. Now from here, our calculator can do things for us, or we can do this by hand. Square root of 16 is 4, and 10 divided by 4 is going to give us 2.5. So even though it's a word problem, you just had to read it and plug stuff in. Okay. Our next section, combine like terms. Now we have been doing this the whole time. I just haven't taken a whole day on this in our homework, because you guys don't need that. So as I look at this problem, we're just combining like terms. We are not solving, just combining like terms. So x's with x's, numbers with numbers, x squareds with x squareds. So the first thing I see is I have a parentheses, so I'm going to distribute the -2, okay, to everything. So what I have now is 3x minus 10x, and then notice this, I have a negative times a negative, so it is going to turn into +6. So be very careful about your negatives there. I'm just bringing down that 7x squared. So now we're going to put it in order, combining like terms. Reminder from expo and geometry, our highest one is going to go first, so this one should go first. I'm going to have 7x squared. I have like terms. These two are like terms, so I'm going to say 3x minus 10x, so it's going to become negative 7x. And then our 6 will just tack on the end here. So I didn't take any time on that in class because you guys know how to do that. You've been doing that the last couple of years. Okay. Our next problem, we did do some of this on our homework. So reminder, this is where you're reading your problem, you're just writing an equation, and you're looking at what kind of words are they using. Are they using something? Are they spending money? Are they gaining something? That tells you if you're going to use a plus or minus. Okay. So in our water tower in Elk River, it can hold 10,000 gallons of water. And each day, the residents of the town uses 300 gallons. Okay. We're going to write an algebraic expression to model how much water the tower has after any given day. Okay, so we know we're going to start off with 10,000. And the residents are using, so that means they're taking away from that 10,000. So we're going to say minus. And we have 300 each day. Now, do we know how many days? No. So we're going to represent days with a D. So I'm going to say minus 300D. Again, notice it says nothing about solving. It doesn't say anything about how many days we have. So that problem is done. On your homework, a lot of you overcomplicated those problems. That's all you had to do. Okay. All right, our last two, it's our solving stuff. So this is pretty much what our entire chapter has been about. Our first one here, we need to solve for x, but the first thing I kind of want to do on each side is kind of fix it up a little bit. The right side has more fixing to do, so let's take a look at that. On the right side here, I notice I have to distribute that negative 2, so I'm going to do that first. I'm going to distribute that negative 2. Be careful of your negatives again. So I have negative 2x. This is going to turn into positive 2 plus 1. On the left side, I'm going to combine some things. So now I have 4x minus 2x. So now I have 2x, and I'm going to combine these two to be a 3. On this left side, it was really boring. I didn't have to do anything, so I'm just going to bring those down. From here, it's however you want to solve. I like to get my x's together. It's up to you. So I'm going to add over this 2x to help us keep things positive. On this side, I'm just going to have 3 equals 4x plus 3. Since I moved my x over here, I have to take away this 3 on this side. I now have 0 equals 4x. And so then my last step, I'm just going to divide by 4. 0 divided by 4 is going to give us x equals 0. From here, if you wanted to, you could certainly check on your test, I might suggest, so you know you're right. But that problem is done. So reminder, you're simplifying, getting your x's on its own, and then solving. Okay. I have a quick question, so hint, hint, this will probably be on your test. So number 6 says, when all of our variables cancel on both sides, what does it mean if you are left with something like this? So 3 equals 3, that is something that is true. And reminder, if something's true, your answer would be infinitely many, or remember I also said you could use the infinity sign. If you're left with something like this, 1 equals 2, that is false. And reminder, that is a no solution. Or you could use this 0 through a slash through it. Okay, so hint, hint, I'm probably asking this on your practice test, so it probably will be on your actual test. All right, that's page 1. If you need to slow down, obviously go back as you need your video notes. All right, on page 2, this is where things started to get more complicated. For these ones, we are solving for a letter. Make sure you're reading the directions. So both of these say we're going to solve for x. The problem on the left here, number 7, reminder, you always want to get it out of the fraction. So I'm going to get rid of this 3 first. So I'm going to times by 3. On this side, I'm going to be left with 3z. On the other side, those 3's are going to be canceling, so I'm just left with 2x plus 1. And then from here now, it kind of looks like the problem we did on the last page. I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to minus 1 on both sides. These are not like terms, so I'm going to keep it as 3z minus 1 equals 2x. And then our last step, I'm going to divide by 2. On this side, neither of those are divisible by 2, so there's nothing I can do there, and that is my answer. Okay, so reminder, these are those literal equations that are left with letters and numbers everywhere. All right, number 8, I feel like I've done this one 100 times because it keeps popping up in your homework. I was trying to stress the importance of it. All right, so we're solving for x reminder, and so we see there's x's on both sides, and there's also extra stuff with that x. So there's two things I'm about to do here. I'm about to do 2 steps, don't freak out. I'm going to bring this x over here with my other x, and I'm also going to move over this 2. I'm going to do this all in 2 steps. So now what I have here, reminder the ax and bx, even though they both have x's, they're not like terms. So what I have here is ax plus bx equals y plus 2. And then reminder, I call this undistributing, or it's factoring or dividing. So I'm going to take out that x from both the a and the b. And when I do that, I'm going to be left with a plus b equals our y plus 2. Now reminder, this x is really being multiplied to the a plus b. So if I want to get rid of it, I'm going to divide by a plus b. And I'm going to divide by a plus b. Okay. On that left side, our x is now on its own. And on this right side, I have an a and a b and a y and a 2. So really, I can't do anything on that side. So this is our answer. Okay. Some of you, I've done that problem for you on basically every single homework assignment, so make sure you're studying that. All right. Our next one is very similar to the ones above. You're going to read it and see what question we have to, or I'm sorry, what letter we have to solve for. So we have this equation for lateral surface area. I have r here, so I'm trying to solve for r. I notice all of this is being multiplied, so I'm going to just divide by 2 pi and divide by 2 pi. On this right side, I have s over 2 pi, can't reduce. On that other side, I'm left with the letter I want. So even though it's a word problem, it wasn't really much I had to do. All right, so those are our literal ones. Okay, we're going to get into a couple word problems here. For these word problems, for number 10 here, this is that triangle problem I keep doing, or rectangle problem. So again, I'd really recommend for some people, read the shape you have and draw a picture. So it says I have a triangle. So right away, I'm going to draw a triangle. It says the longest side, so the longest side is 4 times the smallest side. So I'm going to say L for longest. So I'm going to say L equals 4 times, I'm going to use X instead of S for smallest. And it says the other side is 4 more than the smaller side. So this side right here, whatever letter you want to use, I'm going to use Y, sorry, is 4 more than the smaller side. So X plus 4 or 4 plus X. And then notice it doesn't say anything about the small side, so that small side is just going to be represented by X. It says, you know, you need 70 feet of fencing for your perimeter, so we want to find each side. So I'm going to take all my sides, since we know we have the word perimeter, we're going to add them all up, and it equals that 70. Okay, so I'm going to take X plus 4X plus X, so I'm going to have 6X plus 4. I'm going to subtract that 4 from each side. So when I have that, I now have 6x equals 66. And my last step, I'm going to divide, and x equals 11. Now, if you tell me 11, that's great, but that's not our full answer because I'm asking for each side. So we just found our small side. We just found out this side was 11. So reminder now, I'm going to take this 11 and plug it into each of my sides that I don't know. So for this one here, I'm going to take 11 plus 4, so that means this side is 15. I'm going to plug it into this one, so I really have 4 times 11, so this side is 44. So when you have your test, I would suggest drawing a picture, writing it all out, and then you have to solve for x, and then take that x and plug it in. Okay? All right, here we go. This problem right here, everyone, I'm going to tell you it's extra. I'm going to take it off. We don't need to know how to do this problem. Okay, so I'm just going to cross it off, also save us some time. All right, these next two, this is when we started getting into our inequalities. So these are words and phrases we have to look for. Okay. It says the quotient of a number is at most 20. So reminder, quotient means divide. So I'm going to take n divided by 4. Okay. Is at most. So this phrase at most is saying 20 is the highest I want to be. So we're going to say less than or equal to 20. Okay, I'm going to write off the side here just for a moment. If you had the phrase at least, reminder that's when you'd have greater than or equal to. So one of those might be on your test. You might want to study both of those. Okay. The difference between these two numbers, so difference between numbers means subtraction. So I'm going to say n or x minus 5 is greater than 20. So I'm going to say greater than 20. If you're someone who's struggling with your inequality signs, those might be some words and phrases you might want to study. All right, here we go. Let's go to our last page. Okay. Here's where we started solving and graphing, making sure we pay attention to words and phrases we have. So on this first one, I see I have the word and, so reminder, we need that as part of our answer. And reminder, and means we shade in the middle. On this one, I'm going to minus the 2x from both sides, get those x's together. So now I have x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. I'm going to subtract the 3 from both sides, so I have x is greater than negative 3. I'm going to write that down here as part of our answer. This one, easy, just divide by 3, and x is less than 4. Okay, quick review, reminder, draw me some stuff on your graph so I have a good idea what's happening here. If you don't, I'll be like, you don't know what a graph is. Okay. All right, so I have this symbol here next to negative 3, so that means I need a closed dot at negative 3. I have this symbol next to the 4, so that means I need an open dot at 4. And since I have the word and, that means I have to shade in the middle. Again, make sure I know what you're talking about for shading. If you make it part of the line and I can't see it, I can't give you points. Okay? All right, this next one says or. Reminder, bring down that or word. And reminder, or usually means we shade off to the sides. Also, this one has something important. I have some people that keep forgetting to do this. I have a negative, so I'm going to divide by negative 2 on both these, which means, reminder, I have to flip my inequality sign. So what we have now is x is less than negative 5. Okay. On this next one, I'm going to subtract the 1, and I'm going to divide by 3. So we're going to have x is greater than or equal to 2. All right, again, we're going to set up our number line. Make sure you have a few numbers on there so I know what you're talking about. Okay. On the negative 5, since I have that symbol, I'm going to have an open dot at negative 5. I'm going to have a closed dot here at 2. This one says less than negative 5, so I find that over here. This one says greater than, so I'm going to have that over here. That is the difference between our and our or. If we still don't know that, you will want to make sure you are studying that. All right. Our next section, this is when we got into absolute values. Reminder, all absolute values have two answers, a positive and negative. And reminder, as I'm looking at both of these, your first step is always to get your absolute value on its own. So this one, I see I have to get rid of that 9. Okay. And then I should right away have some alarm bells going. I need to remember, is there such thing as a negative absolute value? No, there is not. I should not keep going. Negative distance does not exist, so our answer is no solution. Done. Okay. All right, they're not all going to be like that. I got terrible news. All right, so first of all, we have to notice what is the sum of our solutions. So reminder, you always have two solutions. So I got to take my two solutions and I have to sum them. So I got to add them up. All right, so first, I'm going to add the 7 to both sides. Okay. And I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. And now I have this. So if you were excited to see that negative, terrible news, it went away. So you don't have two no solutions. All right, so here's where we split it, that I'm going to say 2x plus 4 equals positive 1. and 2x plus 4 equals a negative 1. Okay. On both of these, the first step, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. I'm going to have to crunch in here a little bit. So now I have 2x equals negative 3 and 2x equals negative 5. On both of these, I have to divide by 2. I'm going to write this answer up here. So when I divide by 2, I'm going to have x equals negative 3 halves, or negative 1.5. This one, when I divide by 2, I'm going to have x equals negative 2.5. Now, a reminder, the question says, what's the sum of these? So now what we're going to actually have to do is sum them. So I'm going to take these two answers and add them together. So I'm going to take negative 1.5 plus negative 2.5, sorry, that negative. And when I add those together, we are going to get negative 4. Okay. So reminder, whenever you have absolute value, you have to get the absolute value by itself, split it into 2, have a positive and negative, and reminder, if you start off with a negative like this before you start solving, it means you have a no solution. Okay. All right, we have 3 problems left, and then we are done. Whew. All right. Now, here is our last day, okay, and this is kind of taking everything that we've learned and put into this last section here. Reminder, the first thing I need you to do is look at your sign. This one's a greater than, so that means I have an or. This one is a less than, so that means I have an and. Some people might want to do that right away before they start solving. Okay. This one I see I have to get rid of that 3, so I'm going to add 3 right away. So now I have the absolute value of 2x plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5. Because I have an or, I'm actually going to write my work underneath. Reminder, you take what's inside and you keep your sign and don't do anything with your number. You write the word or, you rewrite your problem, but this time you flip your sign and you turn it into negative 5. From here now, we're going to solve both of these. Luckily, you've been doing that this entire practice test. And then we're going to divide by 2. So now I'm going to have x is greater than or equal to 2. Reminder, we need the word or, and x is less than or equal to negative 3. So that whole thing is our answer there. We're going to go back up here, do our graph. Give me a couple numbers on each side. Okay. Both of these will have a closed dot, so closed dot at negative 3, closed dot at 2, and then we're going to shade to the sides because we have an or graph. Okay. Now on this other one, again, we have a step we have to do first. So I got to divide by 3 first. So now I have the absolute value of x minus 5 is less than 3. Now the and, I'm going to write it below again, the and, I'm going to have x minus 5. We bring down that 3, and reminder, you just write that sign again, and you flip your number. Okay, so that's how we write it for the and. And then on both of these, we're going to add 5. Okay, so what we have now is 2 is less than x, which is less than 8. Okay. From here now, we're going to put this on our graph. I'm going to go by 2 since we have to go all the way up to 8. All right, so both of these are going to have an open dot. So I have an open dot at 2, open dot at 8, and then since it's an and, we have to shade in the middle. Okay. So the biggest thing I need you guys to do in this section is just study to see what you have to do. Whatever you start with tells you what word you're going to have and use, okay? And reminder, they mean different things, or you have to flip your sign and change your number, and you just write it in this condensed form. You put that sign twice, and on this side you flip your sign, okay? All right, here we go. Last number. Sorry, these notes got a little long today. All right, our last problem here. This is those tolerance problems. So remember, I kind of showed you guys some cheats on how to do these. Reminder in this, you're trying to write this right here. They always have this because they always have the word between, so that always means it's an and. Okay, so I'll just tell you they always have this. I like to draw a picture. You certainly don't have to do that, but I like to do that for myself visually. So we have a dumbbell. We're trying to get it to be 10 pounds. It is allowed to be between 10.5 or 10.05, sorry, and 9.95. And it can be all the weight in between there. So as I look here, between each of these, I can be above 0.05 or I could be below 0.05. Okay. So this right here, that is our tolerance, whatever number is a little bit above or a little bit below. And reminder, the number you want always goes here. Okay. If you need to do a quick check, if you saw this, if I added 10 to 0.05, yes, I get this. If I took 10 and I subtracted 0.5 or 0.05, yes, I'd get this. Okay, so this is our answer. So you're really just trying to fill out what would go in these two blanks. All right, I am done. Good luck on your test. Thank you very much.